Hey everybody, this is John from Code Planet. It's been a little bit since I've done a YouTube video, so I'm hoping to get back into the swing of things. Today we're going to build a whole app together, which I think will be pretty fun. Basically, I had this idea for an application where you could put in your Twitter handle, or anyone's Twitter handle, and it would show you a list of people that you're following that don't follow you back. Because I'm always kind of curious about that kind of stuff, so I thought it'd be kind of fun and a cool opportunity to play with some cool technologies. So we're going to use Node. We're going to use the custom Twitter client for Node. And then I think if we get time, we'll build it out in Express, maybe Jade, something like that, and build a web UI around it. So cool. So the first thing that you're going to have to do if you're going to follow along is go to apps.twitter.com, and you'll need to make a new application. So I just made this one for today because I wanted to be able to show on a video like my keys and access tokens without having any of you hackers try to steal my sweet privileges. So this is just a dummy app that I made. But yeah, you can go ahead and make one and make sure that you generate consumer key and secret, and then also make sure that you get an access token. They should have some pretty good documentation if you need help creating an app. But after you've created an app, then I'm going to go head over to npmjs.com and I'm going to take a look at what's available for Twitter packages. So I see this is like an auth strategy. I see like 3 here that look pretty good. So I'm going to open them all up and I'm just going to take a look at like kind of how popular they are. So this one, it's getting about 1,000 downloads a day, which is pretty awesome. Looks pretty good. This one's getting 20 downloads a day, and this one's getting 40. So just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to go ahead and go with this popular one. Plus, they locked in the name just Twitter, which I suspect leads to their popularity. Okay, cool. So we're gonna use this one. So I'm going to go into my terminal. I'm going to make a new directory. I'm going to call it something like, like Code Planet Sample App. Something terrible like that. And I'm going to cd into it. I just got this empty directory. So I'll do a git init, just so we can do some version control, and then I'll also do an npm init. And we've covered this before in a lot of our Node framework classes, but basically npm init is just a way of generating a package.json file. And the reason that we'll be using it is as we install dependencies, having done an npm init allows us to throw a -- save flag, which will stick those dependencies in the package.json, which we'll see in a minute. And then it's cool because if you send it to like a friend or you have anybody else download it, they don't need to look at what code you're using. They can just do an npm install and get up to date on everything you've got. So name, default is fine, Code Planet Sample App, version 1.0, sure. Description, see who you follow that doesn't follow you back. Entry point, index.js is good. Test command, we'll see if we get to testing in this one. Git repository, I'm going to leave blank because I don't have it on GitHub or anything. We can do like Twitter, follower, I don't know, some keywords. The author is me, license MIT. And so anyway, this is the file that it's going to generate for you, or for us, so I'll say yes. Alright, now if I ls, you can see this package.json, and if I look inside it, it's just got all that stuff. So I'll go ahead and add it, and then git commit, added package.json. Sweet. Okay, so that's our very first thing. And now what's cool is this allows us to now go back to this Twitter library, and now we can do an npm install of Twitter, and we can throw -- save. So that's going to go out, download it, and get all of its dependencies. And when it comes back in a second, we'll be able to see that if we do a git status now, we can see that this node modules folder has been added, which is we're going to want to ignore from Git. But also we can see that this package.json has been modified, and if I do a git diff on it, we can see that where it used to just have license MIT and then end, it's now added this dependencies key with Twitter as its dependency. I think somewhere online, like GitHub, git ignore, node, something like that. GitHub has some like really, really good git ignores, which is actually cool when you go to make a new repository. let's see. So if I were to like make a new repository for it, you can choose like a git ignore by default, which is great. But since I didn't put this on GitHub, and this is an official GitHub project, I'm just going to copy it here and go ahead and then just make a new file locally called git ignore. And I will paste that stuff in. And so this is just like the default git ignore for Node, so it'll hide any log files or a logs folder, any like process IDs. I don't even know what this is, JS coverage stuff. Anyway, they've got some really good descriptions, but the big one that we need is right here on line 28, which is it is going to ignore the node modules folder, because what we don't want to do is we don't want to check in every single line of code that our dependencies have. That's why we use npm, because it'll fetch those dependencies. So we don't want to share those things. Okay, cool. So now we've got a couple things going on. So I'm going to do one commit of just the git ignore file, and I'm going to say like git commit m added node git ignore, and now we won't any longer see that node modules folder, even though it is there. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. We do still have the node modules folder, it's just no longer being spotted by git. And so now we've got just the package.json, so I'll add the package.json, and then I'll git commit added Twitter as a dependency. Sweet. Okay. So I'm going to move ahead, and I think I'm just going to actually open this whole project with a GUI editor. I usually use Vim for everything, but I kind of don't want to be confusing hopping back and forth. So I'm going to open up Atom and go to Code Planet Sample App. Sweet. Open that up. And awesome. Okay, so we got our package.json. Make everything a little bit bigger. Great. Okay, so now that we've got that, let's kind of experiment with it a little bit. So if we go close this and we look at their little npm.js doc page, we can kind of see like a little sample usage. So I'm just going to copy this for now. I'm going to go back into Atom. I'm going to make a new file. And I'm going to call it index.js, because that's what I said I would be using. So cool. So I will paste this in for our Twitter. So we require the package. And then here's kind of our authentication keys and things like that. And then you pass in this screen name. They're using Node.js by default. And then it does this little call here where it gets that user's timeline. So we can go back to the apps page. And let's start grabbing things. So our consumer API key, and we'll put that in here. Our consumer secret, and we'll put that in here. Our access token. And we'll put that in here. I think I missed an I at the end. Yeah, I did. And then our access token secret. Okay, cool. So now we should have proper credentials for everything that we're doing. And the last thing we want, I guess is good enough to run. Okay, so we've got this going on. So now let's go back to our terminal. And I'm just going to node index.js. Awesome. Okay, we got some data. So let's scroll up. I got a lot of data. My goodness. Okay, so I think this got the whole timeline for Node.js. So you can see like basically what they would see. So you see like, who do we have here? Node.js. Oh, I think what we're seeing actually, let me check this out real quick. Let's go to twitter.com/Node.js. Okay, yeah, so we're seeing their timeline of tweets. So you can see here their last tweet is conference party hosted by IBM happening. And then if we hop over here, we can see conference party hosted by IBM happening. So cool, so we know it's working. So it's going out to Twitter with the username, it's fetching all these things, and it's bringing them back, and we can mess with them later. So that's pretty cool. So let's think about what it is that we're going to want to do next. So I guess like the first thing is we're going to want to take a screen name. Like maybe I'll just use myself for now. So I'll use jcoop. And so instead of going to status's user timeline, we really want to get like a list of the followers, and then we want to get a list of the following. So I might even just pseudocode this out a little bit. So it's like get a list of all jcoop's followers. And then maybe inside there, we can get a list of all jcoop's following. So now we should have like these two arrays, one of everybody that follows me and one of everybody that I follow. And then like inside here we can do like iterate through following, seeing who is not also a follower. So we can like get all the followers, get all the following, and then we go through one and see who from this one is not also in this one. And then we should end up with a big list of them. So then last we'll just like display the list. Something like that. Okay, so the first one is I want the Twitter API for followers. So they have pretty good documentation if you go to like Twitter API followers or something like that. And so what you'll be able to start seeing is you'll be able to start seeing what the endpoint is. And then as far as I know, it should be as simple as like copying this and pasting it in here as the the endpoint that you want to hit. And so you could change technically the name in here. This used to be tweets coming from a timeline. Now it's like users or something like that. And so let's just display users.length because I don't really want to look through a giant JSON blob again. I'll hit it with node. Undefined. Okay, something went wrong. Hold on. If not error, followers, IDs. Alright, let's try just users and see what happens there. Okay, so we got this giant thing. Oh, I bet you it returns an object, and I did .length on it, and that was probably the problem. Let's see. It's making me feel pretty cool, this big list of followers. Okay, it is. It's an object, and the array is at .ids. That's what we want. So we could do users.ids.length. Hit that again with node. Comes back with 1760, and then just to verify, twitter.com/jcoop. And 1760. Okay, great. So that's awesome. So we know we're getting the right data there. So now we're inside this list of my followers. And probably what we'd want to do here is like inside, I'm actually going to switch this up a little bit just to keep from, I kind of don't like the if blocks where you end up coding, my friend used to call it building pyramids. So you would do like if, and then you'd like put everything in here and keep building out and out and out. Like what I think would be better to do is do like if there is an error, throw whatever the error is, right? And then otherwise that. And that'll just keep our code a lot closer to the left edge, so it should be a little bit easier to read. So instead of console logging, we're going to do our next call here, right? So we've done this one. So now we want a list of all the people I'm following. So we can do like Twitter API list following. Okay, so it looks like maybe, yes, they call them friends. Okay, so now this will be client.get friends list, pass in the same params as before. And I think all of these, I might be wrong on this, but I think that all of these take the same like three parameters to the callback function, which is like an error if there was one, the response itself, which could be useful later, to like see what response code it was, like are we rate limited or is there an error, things like that, and then the actual, the good stuff, the stuff you want here. So I'm going to switch this just for now to followers, and then I'll call this one following. Might change that a little bit later, but just to keep things clear for now. All right, and response. Did I spell it right? Yes, great. Okay, this always bothers me. Great. Okay, so now we've got kind of this nested thing going, this kind of like callback hell a little bit, but I think it's all right for now. So we get the followers, and then assuming there's not an error, then we get the following. So now we should have both of those, which is awesome. And I'm actually just, because we saw that little trick where it's actually at the IDs key, I'm just going to kind of go through here and make these like, so what do we call this, like followers results or something like that, and then we can do like actual var followers equals, and we can do like followers results dot IDs, something like that, just so we can know what we're talking about when we say followers. So I'll probably do like exactly the same thing in here for now. If there's an error, throw it. I think I can even get rid of these just to make it look a little nicer. Otherwise, and then this one will do following. We'll change this to following results, and then we'll do following results .ids. Okay, so now we just have a list of IDs of followers, a list of IDs of following. Awesome. Okay, so now that we're still in here, we'll got that one done. So let's iterate over the following, like we said, following dot for each. Whoa. And then, I don't know, like call this like person or something like that. So we'll go through each one of the following, and what we want to know is like if followers contains a result that is this person. So we can do like if followers index of person is equal to -1, right? So what we want to do here is like we look in followers to see if this following person is in there. And if they're not in there, so this right here is like if someone you follow doesn't follow you. If the followers index of person is not in there, is -1, then what we'll want to do is like create some type of like array. So maybe move that back out here. So we've got params, and then we've got like var one-way followers or something like that, and we can just make that an empty array. So then here, when we hit this condition, we'll want to do one-way followers dot push and push that person onto there. Cool. So that should be pretty good. One thing that I'm a little bit wondering about, we might have to deal with it later. I don't know if there's a limit on these. Like, if you were following 10,000 people, would you actually get an array of 10,000 back? I'd assume the API has rate limits on it, so we can check that later. But I think it should be pretty good. So I guess let's go ahead then and once we exit this for each block, let's go ahead and console log one-way followers. Just see kind of where we're at. Do we get an error? How are we doing? All right, we got an error. Cannot read property for each of undefined. Following, let's see what we got here. Following is undefined. Following results. All right. I'm just going to do some console logging real quick. Console log following, which I'm assuming has to be undefined somehow. Undefined, okay. So what was the results that we tried to get the IDs out of? Oh, there's a bunch of stuff. Let's see, maybe they name it something a little different. All the way up here. Oh, I see. This comes back strange. Following comes back as like this an object with a user's key. Let's look at the API here. A cursored collection of users objects. So I think this isn't exactly what we want, right? Because we don't want a collection of user objects for every single person you're following. We really just want those IDs again. So let's see if there's another. Yeah. So I'm thinking maybe this one. Yeah, okay. I think we used the wrong endpoint. So I think what we wanted to do was get the IDs of your friends, not a list of your friends. So let me go back through here. Let's just try this one with the same console logs in place. Go ahead and clear. And make sure that okay, so this is what we want. We want this big list of IDs. So now let's go back to going through each one, building up this list. So hopefully this is going to be like an array of some IDs. Okay, perfect. And hopefully, yeah, it's small. Okay, great. So this should represent the user IDs of everybody that I follow that doesn't follow me back. It's good to see that it's smaller than, like the people that I follow, and it's smaller than the people that follow me. So it makes me think we're moving in a good direction. So now that we have this like smaller array of IDs, the last thing that we're going to want to do is like hydrate these into actual users. So let's go back to the Twitter API, and I think they have like a user, a user's endpoint. show or lookup. I don't know what the difference between lookup and show is. Yeah, fully hydrated user objects for up to 100. This is what I was talking about earlier, getting rate limited here. Okay, so you can only get 100 users back for a request, which means that you can only send in 100 users to the ID, or to the endpoint, I mean. So I guess the first thing that we'll want to do, down here, only take the first 100 users. And so we can do like one-way followers equals, or I guess, I think I named this wrong, right? Because it's one-way following. That's what we're looking for. Right. People that you're following that aren't following you back. You can name it whatever you want. I'm terrible at naming stuff. So we can take one-way following and set it to itself, and we'll just slice the first 100. So we'll take 0 through 99. And so that'll make sure that we're only going to send 100 users to this next endpoint. So then the last thing that we're going to want to do is this users lookup here. So we can do client.get again, users/lookup, send in the same params, maybe. Let's see how it looks. And then error, users, results, response. Okay, so what does this return? So it's going to return an array of objects, and then each object is going to have a a name. I wonder if they have like their. This is their name, but I'm looking for their actual alias thing, their profile name. Might just be missing it. Like their handle should be somewhere. There's a lot of stuff that you get back. I don't know what they call it, like a @handle or a screen name or some. Oh, here's okay. So this is what we should we'll try to get out of it eventually is get this screen name out of here so you can see like who the user is. And the other thing that I wanted to check is, so this allows you to send in. We're going to use some different parameters. So the first two that we've done so far, we've sent in this parameters object, which is the screen name of the user, and like the user whose followers and whose friends you want. But this time, now we have like this array of user IDs that have nothing really to do with my user anymore. And those are what we want to send in, is this like comma separated string instead. So we're going to turn this array of 100 into a string. So after we take the first 100, turn array into a string. So we can do like var one-way following string equals one-way following dot join. So we'll turn those in, and then instead of sending my user params, we'll send this string now. So we'll go users lookup, we'll send them a string of user IDs, and then here is the callback function. So let's try to we'll get these users results back, and then, well, I guess let's console log for now. Sometimes when I get a little bit ahead of myself, it's just nice to log out what you have so you can kind of visualize it. So we've got a lot of code going at this point, kind of done all this, and we're on this last step of trying to display the list. So let's see at this point what we come back with. So I'm going to clear, and I'm going to run Node again. Console log users unexpected. Used a colon instead of a semicolon. Okay. No user matches for specified terms. Alright, so I've done something wrong here. I have a feeling it's somewhere around here where I'm trying to join things into a string on my following slice. That looks right. User on my following string, just joining them. Alright, so let's console log here. I just want to make sure that I'm looking at something correct as far as the format goes. I'm going to take this console log away, hit Node again. So this looks good, right? This looks like a string of some Right. Okay, sorry. Right. So you don't pass just the string in. You need to pass in parameters object. So what we want it to look like is what is it? Is it screen name, I think. Let's do screen name equals the one way following string. So now let's try to console log that out. Okay, awesome. Cool. So I got this giant list, and let's just take a look and find some users. Looking for that. What was it? Screen name. This looks weird. 1357. Something's wrong here. I don't know what these are. These are not screen names at all. Client get users lookup. Sending in the screen name. All right. Screw it up again. Okay. So for this users lookup table API endpoint, you can either send in a list of screen names like Twitter API, Twitter, or you can send in a list of what we have, user IDs, which are number. So I think I was sending in screen names, or sending in user IDs and calling them screen names, which is incorrect. So I want to change this to user ID. Let me clear one more time, run Node one more time, and hopefully we should see some people that are, like Adi Asmani. So people that I definitely follow and people that definitely don't follow me. So looking really good at this point. I think the last thing that I'll want to do is build a little, let's get this out of here. We want to kind of display this a little nicely. So I think what we can do is we can take user results, and we can kind of for each through them again. So now we're getting the actual users, right? So we got a function now with a user object in it, or user object in it. And then what we want is let's make a throwaway user object or something. And so each time we go through one of these user results, we'll build up this new thing, and it'll have name equals the users. I think they had names. Yep, the user's name. And it'll have screen name, right, like we've been looking for, equals the user's screen name. And it'll have, do we get, avatars maybe somewhere. Maybe they're the profile image URL. Well, that looks like it might be right. Let's check it out. Call it avatar, and we'll do user.profile image URL. Something like that. Okay, so each time we'll build up this kind of throwaway object, and then let's make one last thing of our users to display. Make that an empty array, and then we can now go through and push onto that. So users to display, and we'll push on this user object. So this is going to take these this gigantic blobs that are coming back with all this stuff that we don't care about, and just turn it into these really small objects that are just their name, their screen name, and their avatar. So then when this for each is done, now let's go ahead and console log users to display. Clear it one last time, run Node on it. Awesome. So now we have this list back of accounts that I follow that don't follow me back. And so then if we took somebody else's, let's say Adi Asmani, and we put his screen name in, and then we ran it again, now we would get this list back of people that Adi Asmani follows that don't follow him back, like Dan Abramov and Babel. Anyway, so I think that's pretty cool. I think I'm going to save making the web version for a different video just because we've been going pretty long. I'll put all of this code up on my GitHub, which is github.com/jkup. You should be able to see it there. I'm not sure what I'll call it yet, something like Twitter followers or something. And yeah, thanks for watching.